tell me about your proposal. Summarize it in a nutshell. What are you guys asking for? What would you like to see happen?
So within a nutshell, there is the top leadership position in the entire city of St. Louis, which is that chief executive position, which is the mayor's office. We voted her in, and as we as the city of St. Louis expecting her to take that top leadership position and propel the city in a direction that we think that is in line with what she talked about. These are the things that we would like to see within her campaign. So getting to the point where we have a lot of different things that are going on within the city that weren't necessarily talked about before the mayor herself assumed this position, weren't talked about during the time when she was campaigning. We're in a particular position where the city will cease to exist. And this is within a year and a half with the person being in office and already being referred to as somebody that is a part of a plan that dissolves the entire city, says something, number one, to the individuals who live here as residents, right? This is something that has been here and been planned for us before you ever assumed this position. And for us to not have a seat at the table at this particular time, knowing all of these things are happening, you know.
So you and others in the coalition, what's it called again? St. Louis?
Citizens to Protect St. Louis.
Citizens to Protect St. Louis. Basically want to recall. How would that work? Would it be a petition for a special election? How does the recall mechanism work?
Well, generally what would happen is there'll be a petition drive set up, and you petition, and when you achieve the number of signatures that are desired or that are needed to make sure that that person is recalled, the numbers that are needed to submit, there'd be a special election after about 90 days. So you have 90 days to call that special election.
And why launch the recall petition against Krewson? Is it strictly the Better Together proposal?
Well, it's that in itself. So when we talk about where this city is going, this is in the text. We're not talking about a Major League Soccer stadium we're talking about. We're not talking about fixing up vacant buildings with the Prop NS money where we can just vote down and come back with another proposal. We're talking about the dissolution of the city of St. Louis and us never having a vote for an individual being the mayor of that merger. And never having a voice at the table, period. You're talking about imposing taxes on people that they don't get to vote for. We don't even get to vote these taxes out there and imposed on us for years. So we are completely losing every aspect of authority within our city. You as a citizen, as a resident, as an elected official, everybody loses everything when it comes down to being able to have the authority over our city and what direction that we go in. We're giving that to an individual who has never had any authoritative position within the city of St. Louis ever. And when it comes down to the St. Louis County voters, there are assuming St. Louis City property, so, and without ever even having conversations with the individuals who live within the city, so we can tell them, as in a disclaimer, exactly what problems exist within the city that they weren't hearing. There hasn't been real adequate communication.
Was it a surprise to you that Krewson came out in support of this? I mean, when this whole idea was first floated, and suddenly you discovered that the mayor of the city of St. Louis is on board, what was your reaction?
I was surprised. I mean, to have her referenced right on the page where they say they plan to exclude schools and the mayor is in agreement with this, that says something in itself. When it explicitly says right before those notations that the biggest way for our region to move forward is to address schools, and then to completely leave them out and reference our mayor and the county executive who assumed these positions of authority over the entire city is saying this is the best thing for the region, but we're going to exclude schools. You know, that's surprising to me, in understanding that everything we build right now has to have an educational basis to it so people can sustain it in the future.
Was there any indication before this came out? I mean, you know, you're being a political person, was there any indication in the world of politics in the city of St. Louis that Lyda Krewson was proposing, that Lyda Krewson was in favor of, that Lyda Krewson would like an idea to unify the city and county and dissolve the city? I mean, was there any hint of this while she was running or in her earlier career?
Zero. Absolutely zero. You can't reference one article, one time she's came out publicly at all and said anything about this merger prior to this day as far as her being in agreement with this in its current form. Now, I can't talk about 10 years ago or 15 years ago when they may have asked her a question about regionalism, but as far as this proposal in itself, right? I don't know what's happened before. She has never came out specifically about the Better Together proposal and told people that this is something that she supports and this is the right direction for the city of St. Louis prior to her becoming the mayor.
You think this is a betrayal of voters in St. Louis?
Absolutely.
Of the people in St. Louis?
Absolutely. You don't vote people in so they can get rid of their position. You vote them in because you believe in the reason they're assuming their position and what it is they talk about and what they're going to do with the position that they will hold when you vote them in. Nobody ever gets voted in and says before they get voted in, I need to dissolve this position. You don't ever run on a basis like that. Nobody has ever run on a basis in saying, I'm going to get rid of this position as soon as I assume it. Within, before that next election, if she would have told everybody, I'm going to run, but before the next election, there will never be another mayor in the city of St. Louis as it exists in its current form now. Most people would 9 times out of 10 not have voted for her, and there's no way she would have lost by 1,000 votes. She would have won by 1,000 votes. She'd have lost by thousands.
Oh, and P.S. Steve Singer is going to be your mayor.
That's going to be our mayor. Like,
And
why
you're not
would
gonna
you
elect
give
him.
that up?
How much of this is, broadly speaking, you feel a betrayal of the entire city? And how much of this has to do with, in a unigovernment system, African American political power would be seriously diluted? Right now, blacks make up 52% of the city, but would make up 30 to 33, roughly 1/3. Over half in the city right now, around 1/3 in a unified city county. Does that enter into this at all?
Well, absolutely. Well, we got to talk about race. We can't act like that does not exist. We still have people that are alive that understand what it feels like to be able to drink at a black water fountain. People still exist. My father's 85 years old. So, we have went through some changes within this city and never have been at a particular point where we have this many black elected officials. We just got Wesley Bell in there, and now all of these positions are going to become appointed. There's a reason why every black position that exists right now, especially within the city, is going to be appointed by the Metro mayor. There's a reason why they actually reference the demographics of the city, and then they say, when you collectively combine them, they want the actual Metropolitan Council to reflect the demographics of the community. What would the community be? Exactly what you just said, 65% white, 30% black, 3.9% Asian, if they can find Asians to assume the position. But when you talk about the demographics and where these people live at, everybody knows that north of Delmar, there are most blacks, and in North County, there are mostly black people. So when you have these districts drawn by universities, they will draw people together and not apart, so we can have the best opportunity to have representation throughout this metropolitan city.
How much of this in the Better Together proposal, the diminishment of black political power, the eliminating of those offices, how much of that do you think was just a byproduct of, okay, we put the plan together and this is what ended up happening? And how much of this do you think was targeted at blacks, saying we are going to try to cut the legs out from under black political power?
Every bit of it.
You think you think this was done on purpose with that specific purpose in mind?
Absolutely. There's no reason why you would take away the ability for the citizens within this region to draw the district lines, to have the ability to have those lines drawn or have a seat at the table. It said that they listen to the public, right? But we don't have authority over who gets these lines drawn. We can argue all day back and forth between the city and county, and it still becomes law. That's something to think about, right? If you put a proposal together and people are going to argue about it, but regardless, it becomes law, you will put together a proposal that you'll be sure people will argue about, right? Because you still get what you want at the end. So when it comes down to us having issues with this, when people understanding that black power and representation will be diluted, there's no out for us. There's no way for us to circumvent this and come back to the table, because it completely does this on purpose. All of the positions that exist right now that they're talking about eliminated are held by black people.
Where do you stand? Where do we stand with the effort itself? So you've made the announcement. Now y'all have got to gather signatures, I take it, from around the city. Do you know how many signatures you need to gather?
A little over 39,000.
39,000 signatures.
So we just have to cut it, we'd say 40.
Okay, so 40,000, about, oh, my math fails me, like 15% of the city population, something like that, 12%. Okay, if you get the signatures, so I take it you guys are gathering signatures now, your folks are getting ready to?
We are working. That's
Okay.
right. This plan is already in action.
So once those signatures are gathered, they have to be submitted and then certified, and an election would be scheduled within how many days?
So we can't do it within 30 days, before 30 days, or within 30 to 90 days. I'll just say it like that.
Okay, so after they were certified, at the most 3 months after they were certified, you could have an election that would recall, or Krewson would have to run again.
Exactly.
Be honest. I mean, you know, excuse me, your family are well-known political players in this town for quite some time.
Yes, sir.
You know how the city works. You know the ins and outs of politics in this city, and you certainly know the people of the city. What do you think, honestly, the chances are that this is going to succeed? Or do you look at it more as sort of a shot across the bow of Krewson saying, well, we may not be able to do this, but we wanted to let you know that we're angry?
Oh, I absolutely have no intentions on playing. Like this isn't just
This isn't symbolic at all.
Oh God, no, absolutely not. You don't come out at an individual like that. I have respect for Lyda Krewson. People might think I'm mad. I'm not angry with her. It just comes down to a difference in opinion. I differ in her opinion than her thinking this plan is best for the region. I'm not against regionalism as a whole, as far as us having the discussions that are necessary to bring our region to a different place and position within the United States. But this in itself is not the right plan. And for her to push that forward and force that upon us, not have conversations with it, but force that upon us, somebody's got to step up. Somebody has to say something. So yeah, I believe we can get what we need. Lyda only won 8 wards out of the entire city. She won by less than 1,000 votes. So when you talk about approval ratings, and let me put this out there. I only won by 65 myself, but I ain't been doing such a bad job to where my entire ward is in uproar, and I can give those people a million reasons on why we weren't getting or what we're getting, but I don't point fingers at individuals. I do the best that I can to make things happen.
You mentioned something I want to follow up on. And the city obviously is in crisis, both socially and financially. Half the city looks like it was bombed out. The city can barely afford to buy new garbage trucks. Mm-hmm. You have a police department beset by scandals and all kinds of stuff. Do you see, is there any scenario under which you would think maybe merging the city with the county or creating some sort of unigov system that might do something about these problems would be workable? Or do you think that's just looking at the wrong solution for the city's problems?
Well, number one, it absolutely in itself, just saying that merging the region is going to handle the issues that currently exist within the city and county, that is 100% I think it's kind of a naive way of thinking, right? Just because you merge 2 populations together and say that we're going to add police departments together and we're going to save money, that does not change the regional issues that exist. This city has not always been in financial problems and financial turmoil, neither has the St. Louis County. So when you go down the line and you find out where we are, they try to reference it and say that this was because of the population declining. Now, you can say there's a piece of that about population, but being realistic, this is mismanagement, period, no matter how you twist it or turn it. There's no way that, and just as an example, the city trucks start to fail, and in a year we have to hurry up and buy 30 or 40 trucks that's going to cost the taxpayers X amount. These trucks have been failing from the actual departments, from what they say, from their views, for 10 or 15 years, and they have not been worked on. It's at the point now where everything needs to be tackled. We got all these issues, and now we want to hurry up and take care of them. We have to be proactive, and I don't think in a long time that we've had people in that top position within the city who's taken a proactive position on things. All we doing are reacting to issues that come up. We talk about crime, we talk about police, we talk about all the money's being put in public safety. When is the last time you've heard the mayor actually come out, realistically, since she's been in office, and address crime in any way? Or address any issue that exists. Let's talk about the vacant buildings. Let's talk about grass not being cut. Let's talk about the alleys. Any issue that you can bring up, you cannot find one time our mayor has come out and had an executive meeting and talked to the folks. Unless we have put together a meeting, there's not. It's almost like there aren't any issues, and that's just, we have to start the discussion before the discussion is forced upon us, right? I think between the city and the county, If we wanted to make things happen and become a better region, we shouldn't be forced by a billionaire to have those discussions. It should be forced by us to say, all right, as a region, we're failing in this, we're failing in that. Why didn't we get Amazon? Why didn't we get all these things that we need? How is it that we can have these conversations and merge whatever departments we like to, because we have the authority to do so without even changing the Constitution right now. We can do those things through just having a conversation and having more conversations between the mayors within the county and the mayors that exist in the city and any actual elected official. All we have to do is have conversations, and right now we're being forced to have those conversations, which I actually can appreciate. Now, I will say one thing about Better Together is they are most certainly forcing the region to have conversations about what it looks like to come together as a region, but their plan most certainly does not, I think, execute something that we all can be proud of in the future.
Alderman, thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate your time.
No problem. I appreciate you.